supports are pretty much done now. I ended up with a method that kind of worked for me at least, which was for each next batten, clamp it to the rafters and then just work on evening it up, adjusting it slightly with the measure so that it's level enough to the next batten along, level enough going sideways, both ends here really, so over here and then near side as well. That one's out a little bit more, but this is a long batten and it's probably a little bit warped, so that was the best I could do there. And then also as I was going along here, like you could see with that one there, make sure as the sides come down they're staying at the same level, so stick a long batten right across the middle there and make sure that's level too, so that they're all coming down at exactly the same height. This side's now done as well, and you can see I'm pretty happy, at least to the naked eye, to the camera. Everything's looking pretty straight and level. And the big test was just around this corner here, because this is where the two sides meet effectively, because this spot's going all over there and coming from down that side where it's all been levelled out, and obviously this one is coming from all the way down there. Left a little bit of an overhang here because I might shortcut this corner on the lower deck just to give me a bit more space, so at least there's a support there for it. But this is the bit I've had to have a couple of attempts at this, but it's now all looking pretty level. If I put the measure on there and press it down where the two sides of the layout meet, yeah, I'm happy with that. And here in this space where I just need the last end support for this top left corner of the layout, obviously with the plank being drilled to the rafter here, there isn't anywhere for the continuation of the support, if you like, so I'm just drilling a little block of the 2x1 wood to the rafter over there, and then the last one will go on the inside of that to the inside of there. It's the far corner of the layout, so I don't think it'll need a support right at the extreme. I think the one inside will just be fine. There it is in place. You just see the little lump of wood between the rafter and the support at the back there, and that's all levelled up as well now, so that's initial run of supports done. And here I've just got a little bit of the ply sat on the layout so I can work out the heights. That the bit of MDF stood up on the end there is 35 centimetres tall, which is well above the 25, which is 9 inches for the shorter back scenes. Not quite 40 for the 15 inch, but I sort of knew that when I was working out the height of the layout, that I wasn't going to be able to get the 15 inch back scenes up there, but with that being 35 and the back scenes being 25, there's comfortably enough space to be able to stand something there and hide away the ugly battens, whatever they are. So this is pretty much the middle of the layout. Again, this is the midpoint of the loft, and this is where the incline line will be at the same level as the storage line. So there's an interchange there, and there'll be one there as well, so that stuff that's coming down from the upper deck can get onto the storage lines here, and again anything that's on the storage line will use some points that will be there to get out onto the incline line and go back up in that direction. Obviously with this being the lower deck, the inclines go up in both directions and then meet at the same height at the upper deck height behind me. And over here I'm just working out distances. This is where the storage line will go off down the end. It has to be really quite on the inside. I've got a fairly narrow gap for the end of the layout. The storage line, because it's non-scenic and just really functional, has to take up as little space as possible, I guess. So it's going to have to come down really quite close to the inside, maybe even closer than it is there, to leave enough space for the more scenic part of the layout to come across into what will be a station, raised station area along there, which will be obviously be above where those storage lines kind of hide at the back. So what I'm trying to work out here is distances. I think that because there's these are third and fourth radius curves here, so I'm going to have to space them with the wider space in which that is measuring. I'm hoping the incline and the outer of these two lines can have a short gauge distance. The only thing I've got to be aware of course, is this, with it being the incline line, is starting to rise here. So I need to make sure that anything coming around this fourth radius curve isn't going to foul what will be raised baseboard at that point. So these are very much in keeping with the way I'm trying to approach this layout, in that really, especially on the bottom deck, it's a case of just enough baseboard for track rather than whereas in the last layout it's kind of those just boards everywhere. So I've cut these 3 today. Obviously they're going to have to go back and get cut again, because the first one, or the middle one there, is fine because that's where all the crossovers and between the lines are. But as soon as we get to this change in colour here, this is where the outside incline line starts to rise. So I'm going to have to cut down these boards again so that the outside line can start rising alongside the 2 internal ones, which just curve off and go down to the storage area over what looks like a bridge at the minute. And the upper lines, I think they'll probably be 4. See, the incline is going to run right back to the wall and go right across the back of there, but the actual scenic line that's coming into a station is going to come across here. It'll have started turning early because this is going to be a station here, and I really want the lines coming right down the middle of the board here so they can spread out across platforms. So once I'm measuring up and everything, this board is going to be cut with the line of the track going down there, so that this part here is open, because this is where, as the lines come around, they're going to be turnout motors and everything here as the lines spread out. So this bit of baseboard's got to go so I can get underneath the higher level bits. I did manage to salvage all of the curved baseboard from the inclines on the last layout, and they seem a perfect size to reuse, so there's no point in cutting anything again. I think I'll use them. I never had a piece of plywood big enough to cut the entire curve out, so they're all in 2 parts, which means I'll have to think ahead with where they join, because they're going to join kind of halfway between 2 beams, so I'm going to have to work out how to support them. I mean, really it's been quite good for recycling in that sense, in that all of these supports and beams, in fact everything, all of the ply and timber that's on the layout is all reused from the previous layout. In fact, to a point where the lofts must be such similar sizes that I haven't even had to saw anything. All of these beams just came straight off the old one and onto the new one. Yeah, every single one. Nothing has had to be adjusted. I only really started sawing once I got onto these plywood beams, having to strip them down to make space. Bit of an illustration here as well on the difference in size, or height, sorry, in the layout. That these drawers over here, they fit comfortably under the last layout. They were sort of pushed off to one side underneath the baseboards. You can see here they're way higher than the support beams. So as I'm getting further with the inclines, I've started to realise, kind of through basic maths, that I might get away with not having a gradient on the corners of the incline, which would probably be a big help with getting longer trains and less grippy trains up there. So, because I'm figuring if I come down here, you can see it's roughly, if it's a 2% or just under 2%, 1.7% gradient incline, then roughly, and this one's maybe gone up a little bit high, but not worryingly, and the spirit level says it's okay. It's roughly going to go up for every 1.2 meter panel, which these ones are. It's going to go up 2 of the thicknesses, if you like, of the plywood, because it's a 120 meter panel and it's 12 millimeter plywood, so it should have gone up 24 millimeters by the time it gets to the end, which is thickness of 2, and that's roughly, you can see roughly that's that. So if I kind of count my way around, it starts here, so these two, it's at 24 millimeters, and then these two, it's at 48 millimeters, and then say we stay at 48 millimeters around that corner, and then we start over here at 48 millimeters. Now, for the sake of easy maths, this is about 150, but let's call it another 120. That's better to err on the side of caution. So over here we start at 48, we've added another 24, and we've got to 72 millimeters, 48, 60, 72 millimeters. So we stay at 72 millimeters around this corner again, and then we start here on we've come around the corner, so these two panels go from 72 to 96, and then the last two panels, this one and this one, go from 96 to 120, and then at this point we are directly opposite where we started. So this is where we're at maximum height, and we've got turnouts that come out onto the upper deck, and there's a little bit of leeway. Okay, I'm going by a 2% increase there, and it's actually aiming for a 1.75 increase, and that's what I'm doing on the spirit level. But there's a bit of leeway over here because there's 30 centimeters I didn't allow for, and to be honest, anywhere between 110 and 120 millimeters, once we got to this point, I'm happy with for the height of the incline. It doesn't have to be 120. I think the last one was 104. So the thing that worried me then is, if I've got an incline, if I've got tracks going up, and then it levels out for a corner, is that going to risk derailment? Because obviously you're risking lifted wheels as the train levels out. These things don't have suspension, so is it going to stick up? But I've given it a good few higher speed pushes than that when I've had two hands free to do it, and it seems pretty rooted to the track. You can see I've got the height there, and then it levels out. So I'm now thinking to aid the climb of trains as they go up, keep the corner sections of the incline level, and just actually have climbing on the straight bits. Something I've discovered probably way too late is all of this ply that's been in a damp, overheating loft for 5 years has warped. It won't be too much of an issue, I don't think, once it's screwed down, but it's just not usable as a test, if you like, for the inclines. So the stuff that I'd done so far, I've realised was way out, because I was aligning it based on warped plywood. At least I haven't discovered that too late, so I'm now using these planks of timber, which are not perfect but much better, to measure the inclines on. And once that's done, obviously I can then just screw the bent plywood onto the plinths and hope that it straightens up. So I've been struggling for a while with how I'm going to get around this corner. I've actually bought some, I think, 30 centimetre long shelf brackets, which I was going to drill into the breeze block there, and they'd come out 30 centimetres, and they would at least support the far outer part of the curve as it comes around, and hopefully support where the two pieces of ply join as well. The curve has to come around and then go again behind that timber there that's a few centimetres away from the wall. At the other end it's a bit easier because I've got these halfway rafters here, so I was thinking as the curve comes round, run another one of these supports between that beam and this one, and then again it'll support the outermost part of the curve, and hopefully any join in the baseboards. But then in the end I thought, well, if I'm pulling supports across here anyway, why not pull one right across the end one at the same level as all of these, and then I can just stick a load of baseboard across it and go back to the kind of the plan A method of stretching supports out as and when I need them. I'm pretty sure anyway these curves aren't going to incline. I think they're going to be level as they go around the corner, but still, it just, if I'm putting the beams up anyway, it just seemed like absolute common sense to put one up at the far end, and then I can just lay some baseboard over it wherever I need it, and it can be supported all the way around. Unfortunately, my grand recycling plan has fallen a bit flat, as you can see from this. This is one of the old incline curves from the last layout, and it's just way too deep to fit for mathematical reasons I can't quite fathom. But it's a much wider radius curve than I've space for here, and it's going to go right down the back of the loft. So I've had some templates lying around that I've printed and stuck to the back of some cardboard for a while. And I'm pretty happy that the outside curve there will fit nicely through the gap. It's pretty much right up against the wall, and it's going to come down in line with where the inclines lay in. So it's going to be a tighter radius curve than I had on the inclines on the last layout, but it's going to stay at the same level. It's not going to, the height of it's not going to rise as it goes around the corner, so that should make a difference. So I'm making steady, if a little slow, progress. This bit of baseboard here now, the red bit, is actually screwed down and is the start point of all the other baseboard. The plank of wood that's on the top of it is just to make sure that nothing is fouling those battens behind, and it's clear, and so I can remove that now really. So this bit of baseboard here is the meeting point of the two inclines as they set off up in each direction to head up and meet again behind me at the higher level. So it's also where the incline line will interchange with the lower supply lines for the yard, and they'll head off around the corner. Those two supply lines as well are kind of an off layout loop, so I'm hoping once all automation stuff's done, and obviously once the upper deck's up there, it'll be a place where stuff can disappear from the upper scenic route, come down, loop around, out of sight for a while, and then reappear later. So the piece of timber at the back with the level set on it is the start of the incline coming off in the anti-clockwise direction. I kind of got a little bit lucky in that I found a little prop from the last layout, from the last incline, that fits perfectly. Any rail is telling me I need a 1.7% gradient on my incline in order to get to the target 120mm height over the other end, and that equates roughly to about just under 1 degree. So so far so good. I've also got another prop that works over there that brings this incline all the way to there at still a 1 degree incline, and then that's the point where the curve starts. You can see I've jigsawed out a bit of baseboard to take the curve around. It's going to stay at that level for that curve. The curve is, I think, a 30-inch curve, 30-inch radius curve. And there's my plank sat along the next two props all the way to the curve, and again that's at a nice steady 1.01 degree. Next job is to get some little props and put them at the halfway points there, and one there, because the plywood, which is sat here, which is going to go on there once it's all measured out and fixed, is really quite bendy and needs a lot more supports on it than the fairly robust piece of timber. So next job now, I pretty much know what height I'm going to be at for this first curve, which is there, is to cut 5 or 6 little props exactly that size, so that I can put them all under this curved section here and have that running at the higher level, ready for climbing up the wall. And there's incline quarter 1, at least cut in place. Nothing's fastened down yet because I'm going to use a lot of the blocks that I've used on this end as templates for blocks to saw for the other end, which is kind of opposite, but should be running along the same dimensions. Next step at this end is to carry on from where the incline, the corner, stops there, and the idea is, if I grab a plank of wood, I don't know if I'll be able to do this one-handed, but to get a you can see down there, that's it. So fasten a beam against the wall, screw it to the breeze blocks, have it join up to there, and then we're off up against this wall, off to the other side. But yeah, that's going to be in a little while, because I'm going to go off to the other end and repeat everything down there up to the end wall that I've done here. So I'll probably put all this together and get it uploaded now, because it'll take me a day or two to repeat what I've done here down that end.